Yahushua chapter 8. And Yah said to Yahushua, do not be afraid nor discouraged. Take all the soldiers with you, and arise, go up to A. See, I have given into your hand the sovereign of A and his people, and his city and his land. So you shall do to A and its sovereigns as you did to Yericho and its sovereign. Only its spoil and its livestock you take as plunder for yourselves. Set for yourselves an ambush for the city behind it. And Yahushua and all the soldiers rose up to go to A. And Yahushua chose 30,000 mighty brave men and sent them away by night, and commanded them, saying, see, you are going to lie in ambush against the city, behind the city. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you shall be prepared, while I and all the people who are with me approach the city. And it shall be, when they come against us as formerly, that we shall flee before them. And they shall come out after us until we have drawn them from the city, as though saying, we are fleeing before us as formerly, and we shall flee before them. Then you shall rise from the ambush and seize the city, and Yah your power shall give it into your hand. And it shall be, when you capture the city, that you burn the city with fire. Do according to the word of Yah. See, I have commanded you. And Yahushua sent them out, and they went to lie in ambush and stayed between Baal and A on the west side of A. But Yahushua stayed that night in the midst of the people. And Yahushua rose up early in the morning and inspected the people, and went up, he and the elders of Israel, before the people of A. And all the soldiers who were with him went up and drew near, and came before the city, and camped on the north side of A, with the valley between them and A. And he took about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Baal and A on the west side of the city. So they stationed the people, all the army that was on the north of the city, and its rear guard on the west of the city. And Yahushua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to be, when the sovereign of A saw it, that the men of the city hastened and rose up early, and went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people, at an appointed place before the desert plain. But he did not know that there was an ambush against him behind the city. And Yahushua and all Israel let themselves be beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people who were in A were called together to pursue them. And they pursued Yahushua and were drawn away from the city. So there was not a man left in A or Baal who did not go out after Israel. And they left the city open and pursued Israel. And Yah said to Yahushua, stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward A, for I given it to your hand. And Yahushua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. And the ambush rose up quickly from their place. And they ran at the stretching out of his hand, and entered the city, and took it, and hastened to burn the city with fire. And the men of A looked behind them, and saw the smoke of the city rising from to the heavens. And there was no power in them to flee this way or that way, for the people who had fled to the wilderness turned back on the pursuers. For when Yahushua and all Israel saw that the ambush had captured the city, and that the smoke of the city went up, they turned back and struck the men of A. And the others also came out of the city against them. So they were in the midst of Israel, some on this side, some on that side. And they struck them until none were left, and none had escaped. But the sovereign of A they caught alive, and brought him to Yahushua. And it came to be, when Israel ended killing all the inhabitants of A in the field, in the wilderness where they pursued them, and when they all had fallen by the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all Israel returned to A and struck it with the edge of the sword. And it came to be, that all who fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, all men of A. And Yahushua did not draw back his hand, with which he stretched out the spear, until he had put all the inhabitants of A under the ban. Only the livestock and the spoil of that city Israel took as booty for themselves, according to the word of Yah, which he had commanded Yahushua. And Yahushua burned A and made it a heap forever, a ruin to this day. And he hanged the sovereign of A on a tree until evening. And at sunset Yahushua commanded that they should take his corpse down from the tree. and throw it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise over it a heap of stones to this day. And Yahusha built a slaughter place to Yah, power of Israel, in Mount Ebal, as Moshe the servant of Yah had commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, a slaughter place of unhewn stones, over which no man has wielded iron, and they offered on it ascendant offerings to Yah and slaughtered peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the Torah of Moshe, which he had written. And all Israel, the sojourner as well as the native, with their elders and officers and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priests, the Levites, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yah. Half of them were in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moshe the servant of Yah had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Israel. And afterward he read all the words of the Torah, the blessings and the cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the Torah. There was not a word of all that Moshe had commanded, which Yahusha did not read before all the assembly of Israel, with the women and with the little ones and the sojourners who accompanied them.